Hello, everyone. I'm Russell Robinson. I'm a longtime composer and arranger for Alfred Publishing, and I'm happy to be a part of the Choral Connect series. In this, I think you're going to learn a lot as a band director. I'm a former band director. I was a trumpet major. My first job in teaching was as a band director, but also I had to teach choir. So that kind of is how it all started. But the name of this series is Switching Scores: Succeed at Teaching Choir as a Band Director. It's going to be in several sections. One is, as a band director who is going to teach choir, you probably already have many of these skills. Another one, what specifically do you need to know to teach choral music that's different from band? The next one is good news, we have text. So our phrasing is pretty much inherent in the text. And the next will be on blend. How do we balance and blend a choir, and is that similar to the band? Repertoire, that's a big one. Obviously, the repertoire in choral music is different than band music. And then concluding is the joys in teaching choral music that you appreciate as a band director, but once you get on your game with choral music, there's a lot of advantages, and I'll tell you what those are next. In this first section, we're going to talk about what you already know about as a band director in order to teach choir. There are some common skills, and there are some things that, quite frankly, I think most band directors do, maybe even a little better than choral directors. I'm not going to make a big statement and truth on this, but maybe you can read between the lines. Normally, I've found, I got a baton in my hand. Normally, I've found that band directors have better stick technique and better conducting technique than choral directors do. And I don't mean that in any deference. My best friends are in choral music and in band, but you usually pay a lot more attention in college to conducting as a band director than you do choral director, as far as cues and releases. And, we know the first beat is always down, the last beat's always up, but what happens in between? It's not like this and like this, and I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, and you have good conducting techniques. You also have good rehearsal techniques. I see a lot of wasted time in some choral settings, and that's a whole another part I'm going to talk about too. Maximizing musicianship and student engagement. We all have to start class on time and have techniques that keep students involved. And if they're not doing something, we know what can happen. So good student engagement is really the key. And band directors do that pretty well. They walk in, they get their music, they pick up their horn, they warm up, they do the first piece, they work it, and the less wasted time. And of course, what I say is, for the best recruitment, whether it's band or choir, especially when some of these are not required, they're electives, is they've got to be excited from the time they come in and learn in a sequential way. And then when they leave the room, they should be excited about what happened at that rehearsal. And I see a lot of band directors that do that. And I see a lot of choral directors too, but I think you have some advantages there. And you have excellent score reading. We're basically reading 4 parts at the most, 6, 8, maybe. You're reading a full score. So your score reading is pretty good. And another thing I think is breathing techniques. Now, some people totally disagree with me, but that's okay. It's the truth according to me, because that's the only one I know. But I know that deep breathing from the bottom up, not breathing up here, allowing their breath to take them through a phrase, not making the phrases so long. 12 measure phrase can be difficult on one breath. The other thing is posture. I walk into good bands and good choirs, and they sit down, they're sitting up straight, feet flat on the floor, eyebrows up, looking up, and have their horns ready in the band. And instrumental warm-ups. I believe that there's, you know, a lot of times more sequential warm-ups that lead to the rehearsal in bands than there are in choirs. And of course, there are choirs that do that very well. But you've been trained how to do warm-ups, and you got the warm-ups right there in front of you. A lot of times we do ours without music, or with music if we're doing sight singing. And musicianship. I'm a firm believer that a good band, choir, orchestra director has to be a musician. Doesn't mean you still play and do all the stuff you did when you were in college, but you know what it is to make music, because we're teaching students to be musicians. We need to be musicians as well. So I think you have that advantage, and we'll move on to the next segment. In this segment, I'm going to talk about what specifically you need to know about choral music and vowel production and warm-ups and diction warm-ups and chordal warm-ups. But these are some things that are inherent in choral music that you don't really have to do. You do analogies of that in band, but we have techniques that are different. Why? Because the voice and the language and the diction and all of that is inherent in making good choral music. So I have been a proponent of vowel production and warm-ups and diction and chordal warm-ups and so on for a long time. Matter of fact, one of the first documents I made was a warm-up book called the Complete Choral Warm-Up book, and I think they're going to show you that on the screen as well. But Jay Althouse and I wrote this, and it's got pictures of how you should have your vowels made. It's got 211 warm-ups. And the reason that we wrote this was because most people just go back to their own warm-ups. Band directors have all their warm-ups written, and we don't have all of them written. These are warm-ups, warming up, warming down, diction warm-ups, chordal warm-ups, physical warm-ups. I'm not sure how much of that I'm going to be able to do here in my office studio. But this is a really good book because it has, even sequences of warm-ups so that here's a one to do vowel production, here's one to warm down, here's one to warm up, here's a chordal warm-up, here's a physical warm-up, whatever, in a sequential way. And you can literally just follow the script and the pages in this book and have your warm-ups and not do the same warm-ups every day, because that gets boring in a band. And again, this is all about engagement too, how to keep kids wanting to do choral music. And you don't want to do warm-ups too long. Matter of fact, I say your warm-ups from physical to the chordal warm-up, the 4 or 5 things that are sequential. Physical warm-up, warming down, diction warm-up, choral and chordal warm-ups. Those can all be done in about 7 minutes. Why 7 minutes? Because it's not 20. If you're in a 50-minute class, and I've seen it happen, and especially if you start class late, which is not good. Classes should start on time. And you can do this sequential warm-up and have them ready for the first piece in the same key as the piece is going to be in on the chordal warm-up. And that you can do that in 7 minutes. You can also do it in 30 minutes, and you'll lose all the engagement of the students before you even start. So anyway, so that my ideas on vowel production. I did another one for Alfred called Warm-Ups by the Dozen. Guess what? There's 12 warm-ups. I did a part 2, Warm-Ups by the Dozen. So, you have warm down, warm up, diction warm-ups, chordal warm-ups, and that kind of thing. So let me just talk a little bit about this. I'm not going to do a full warm-up routine, but after they do some stretching in this and, taking this over and taking this over, and get themselves physically ready and sitting tall or standing tall, feet flat on the floor, backs away from the chairs, or when they're standing, equal weight on both feet, hands to the side and perpendicular to the floor. And we get into the warm-ups. So for years, I did ma me mi mo mu, or me me ma mo mu. That was kind of the standard. Ma me mi mo mu, mi me mo ma me me mo ma me me mo ma mu. And I woke up in the middle of the night one night, and I went, you know what? I've been doing warm-ups. This is just me. Why do we start warm-ups with an E vowel or an A vowel? The E vowel is the hardest one to get people to sing with a blend, because me, me, ma, so for me, I started with the U vowel, and that's in the warm-ups by the dozen, sets 1 and 2. Every one of them starts with an U vowel, and every one of them does descending, warming down first, and then warming up next. But the first thing we do is, like, let's say we're going to do a descending scale, 5-note scale, and I like these, and going up a half step each one. No, 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 no. Perfect. Everybody, no matter where they are, from Arkansas to New England to California to wherever, everybody does an U vowel very well. Now you have to have a space in the mouth. It can't be no, but no, 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 no. Perfect. There's nothing to fix. And then I go from there to the other vowels. Nu, ni, no, ne, na. Nu, ni, no, ne, na. You'll notice that the lips don't change much, because if you go nu, ni, no, ne, na, well, you didn't get it. So everything for me, and I think a lot of people have bought into this. I do workshops and stuff. I come back and I hear them sing beautifully with an U vowel perspective. So we only have 5 vowels, and even on a diphthong that has 2 vowels in one word, we really should only do the primary vowel. So if you're singing like something like my country, my country, it's MAW, and then a little E before when you go into country, you're gonna sound good. It's gonna sound like choral music, not my country, but my country, it is of thee. Got the idea? So then I go into the other vowels in that sequence, and we'll have stuff on this. We'll have examples of this in this Choral Connect that they'll put in on them so you can see them. But I do something like nu, nu ni, nu ni no, nu ni no ne, nu ni no ne no. And then we may do warming up for that, rather than going no, 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 or no, 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 no. But we might do something like no, ni, no, ne, no, no, ni, no, ne, no, no, ni, and that kind of thing. So, because I like to warm down first, because everything should come from above down. No, 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 and even the hands help. No, 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 not no, 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 but no, no, no. And then when you get one that's 1, 3, 5, 3, 1, no, ni, no, ne. If you go no, ni, no, ne, no, that's not going to work. So sometimes you need a physical correlate to make that happen. No, ni, no, no, ni, no, ne, no, no, ni, no, ni, no, ne, no. And then take the hands away. No, ni, no, ne, where it's done well with a good choral sound. Then diction warm-ups. Diction is done with the tip of the tongue and the teeth, or I just want to sing today, and I just want to sing today and sing correctly all the way, because to sing correctly is the way to sing. Where you do, as a part of your warm-ups, you do diction warm-ups. I think it's in this one that I did one that it's kind of fun. It's got a lot of words in it, but once they get it, they really like it. Here it is. This is number 7 in part 2. If you see the sea go swirling, then you shouldn't eat the seaweed. See the seaweed in the sea will hit the seashore when you see it swirling in the sea. It gets some nice consonants and vowels together, and you don't start it, you do so. If you see the sea go swirling, then you shouldn't eat the seaweed. If you see the seaweed, and the same thing, on these things, it gets them ready to speak in English or in another language with clear diction. And then warm-ups, kind of the 1-4-1-5-1 chords. No, ni, no, ne, no. No, ni, no, ne, no. Let's say that's the basis. No, ni, no, ne, no. That's the tenor. No, ni, no, ne, no. In their octave. No, ni, no, ne, no. And then the last one. No, ni, no, ne, no at the top. These are all, it's great to have these in their hand. These are made to be in the folder so that you can do a dozen warm-ups. And if you do a dozen warm-ups, you're probably doing 6 more than most people do. But there's diction warm-ups and chordal warm-ups and vowel warm-ups and so on. And then the ones in the complete choral classroom, the complete choral warm-up book. I think there's another one. Sally Albrecht and some of us did that one. The choral warm-up collection. That's another good one they'll show you here. But where they can learn these things. They're not necessarily going to have a book with 211 warm-ups in it because it won't have any space for the music. But these things are really helpful that didn't exist before. I remember when I was in school, and probably until the 1990s is when warm-up books really took hold. Or you were singing out of a hymnal or something for sight reading, and that's fine. Sight reading is another thing. So I hope that's helpful for you, and we'll go on to the next segment. In this section, we're going to talk about phrasing. And the good news about phrasing in choral music is there's no guesswork. It's all based on text and who has the melody or who has the lead and then who is in the background. But mainly, let's just talk about text. So one of the first pieces I did for Alfred years ago, and it's been it's had a great response from middle school teachers, choral teachers, and it also has an SATB for high school and SSA and every other voicing. But the Sing We Enchant It by Thomas Morley. So it's sing we enchant it while love doth grant it, fa la 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 la, and then it repeats. And it repeats in its first is in forte, and the last is in the second part is the repeat is in piano. But first we've talked about these vowels. So how are we gonna sing? Are you gonna put an ooh on the lips with an e inside, and sing we enchanted? And I like to spell chant as CHAWNT rather than, it's not sing we enchanted, but sing we enchanted while love doth grant it. Then it's got fa la las. And I always say if you got a fa la la, the fa is the main one, accent the fa. So sing we enchanted, and look at the first, what's the first long note? Chant, chant. And we're going to say it as chant, in the English way, whatever. But that's a long note. Long notes crescendo to the next note of rest unless somebody tells you something different or you have a decrescendo. But sing we enchanted while it doth granted. Wah. Again, you got 2 vowels in while. While love. No, you only sing the wah. Wah, love, because when you go to the L for love, then it sounds like while as a choral piece. Sing we enchanted while love doth granted, fa la 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 la, fa la la la. And on a fa la la again, the fa gets the accent. And what does it do next? Next, it repeats. I think they're going to have this for you to see better. But you've got the repeat after that. So, sing we enchanted while it doth granted, fa la 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 la, fa la la la. Sing we enchanted while, and so on. Got the idea? Other types. Here's a spiritual that I've done on Steal Away, the great spiritual. Steal away, steal away, steal away to Jesus, or you can change it to heaven if you don't feel comfortable singing Jesus. But look at what we have here. Steal away, steal away, steal away to heaven. Jesus. Got the idea? And we may get a recording out on this for you too as a add-on. But that's what makes beautiful. That's what makes phrasing so wonderful in choral music. It's all based on text, and it's also based on who has the who has the melody and who's in the background. So that happens too. Here's another one: the Star Spangled Banner. I've had out forever in all voices. It even has a band accompaniment by Michael Miller. But it's oh say. So how does that work? Do you go oh say? And I didn't do the dotted eighth and 16th. I did two eighth notes. But if you have more than one note on a syllable, I think all notes after the first one are softer. So it's not oh say, but oh say, can you see? And here's a long note again. See, crescendo. Why? Because it's a long note. That's what musicians do. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light? Sorry, I didn't get it in one breath. The light, not light. What so proudly we hailed at the twilight last gleaming. I've got gleaming. Well, was the first note on gleam is the important one. Gleaming, gleaming. And so whenever those are things to think about, but all of your phrasing is based on text and have real dynamic contrasts. If it goes from mezzo forte to mezzo piano, think of it as forte or not that loud, but it's got to be dramatically softer for a mezzo piano. Or if it goes to piano, I hear fuzzy dynamics a lot, and I hear them in bands too. But bands seems to have a little more recognition of that because they're not having to deal with text. Another one, I do a lot of jazz pieces, jazz ballads, but here's one, Dream, the Johnny Mercer Dream. So, dream when you're feeling blue. Not dream, but dream. I think all of the text is the same. People disagree with me, but that's okay. I'm talking about when you've got a group of 30, you better get them all on the same vowel or you're going to have a problem. Here's another one. Children are the future of the world. Boy, could you get this all mixed up. Why? Because whoever wrote this, which was me, it's got, if you listen to the melody and the first note, listen, is lower than the second note, listen, listen. But how do we say it? Listen. Why? Because we're telling a story through song. So we don't go, if you listen to, no, it's, if you listen to the melody we sing, long note, crescendo it. Here's another one, All Ye Who Music, another great madrigal. All ye who music. I hear music as sung as music. I don't like that. I don't think anybody does. It's not musical. All ye who music, all ye who music love, and would its pleasures prove. Got the idea? Or here's a little 5/4. God rest ye merry gentlemen. God rest ye merry gentlemen. It's gentlemen and it's merry. God rest ye merry gentlemen. Let nothing, even though nothing goes up on the second syllable, it's not louder. It's nothing. It's nothing. It's not nothing. Let nothing you dismay. And a crescendo. Got it? Dismay, the accent is there. But those are the things to think about. All right. And you do that you have to figure that out in bands. You have to figure out where the stress is. There's no consonants and vowels and words in instrumental music, but it's all inherent in the text. You don't have to worry about it if you just do the text dramatically to teach them and make sure that the syllabic stress is on the right syllable. Little joke there. Anyway, I hope that helps you. In this section, I'm going to talk a little bit about blend. I don't need to talk a whole lot about it because it's really very simple and it's analogous to what you do as band directors. So in my world and in your world and in the choral world and in the instrumental world, we have to have pyramid balance, okay? So I'll put it this way, if I can. Pyramid balance, all right? So the piccolos and the trumpets are up here and the sopranos are up here and the tubas and the basses are down here. Why? Well, there's a psychoacoustical phenomena on that. We hear high pitches louder than we do low pitches with live music. We're not running a board here like I have over here for my recording studio. We do, we have to have balance on the spot. And so we need to have that pyramid balance. So it would be basses are a little bit louder than tenors and a little bit louder than altos and a little bit louder than sopranos. So at the same volume, the sopranos are going to be softer. And they have to work on that because if let's just say we're all singing a forte, and if everybody sings forte, and to me, by the way, a fortissimo is no more than 85% of full volume. Because what happens when we take our stereo and we turn it all the way to 10, or do it on our iPhone, or do whatever, or do it in our studio? It distorts. So the loudest it should ever be is 85%. Why? Because it's not 100%. This is just me trying to give analogies on how this works. But we need to have a good foundation of bass sounds that goes pyramid up and less volume than them as we go up into the soprano section, because we've all heard it, where it sounds like sopranos accompanied by everybody else. And so I think that's analogous to what you're doing, and in choral music and in instrumental music. It's balance within sections and among sections. So what I've been talking about is among sections, but within the sections, it only takes one loud tenor to make the blend go away. And they have to buy into that. There's nothing like a perfect blend. I have a friend who wrote a book on that too. But a perfect blend, when it just locks in. Why does it lock in? Because everybody in the tenor section, everybody in the alto section, everybody in the soprano section, everybody in the bass section, or in elementary music, parts 1 and 2 are both, you're hearing the entire section in volume, whether it be piano or mezzo forte or whatever. So it's a pretty easy formula. Okay, you want blend within and among sections and vowel production, consistent vertical vowel production. Because even if you're going adoramu, and you got adora, but adoramus te Christe, it's got to be, you have to buy into that vertical vowel production. Goes horizontal, it's like a screeching clarinet, shall we say. I'm just trying to, get to your area and bring it over to our area in choral music. So I hope that's helpful for you. Probably one of the biggest challenges in teaching choral music, it's also a huge challenge in instrumental music, is repertoire. Where do you find repertoire? You're a band director, you're teaching choir, and now you need repertoire. Maybe you acquired a library that was there before that may be overwhelming, or how do you find it in that library? But the main thing is that your repertoire must match the choir. You can't have a middle school choral program, let's say a mixed program of treble and baritone voices, if they've changed, if they've changed and their voice change has happened. And then try to do SATB high school music. Some people do it, some people are successful, but I'm just talking about generally. So if you're doing high school, you're going to do SATB, maybe. If you've got enough guys. My first choir had 17 in it, and it was 10 girls and 7 guys, and 7 of the guys thought they were basses, and I had to make a choir out of them. Sometimes you may need to start with 2-part. If you're going to do 2-part with changed voices, there's a way to do it. You put the sopranos on part 1, you put the altos on part 2, and you put the baritones on part 1 down an octave. That's if they're learning, you're starting from scratch. Now let's say you've got voices that work and they're, they know what to do, and you've given them some training. Then of course, SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, bass for mixed choir. SSA or SSAA for treble choir. Or TTB or TBB for men's choir, or lower voices. But the main thing is start with music that they can do. And you can have music that they can do in the beginning, and then music that you're trying to get them to do better. But you can't, do music that is beyond where they are starting. I mean, even some unison things, folk songs, folk songs are very good for learning how to sing without it being too difficult. And madrigals, especially if they're in the voicings that they're, or pop music or jazz music, but it has to be where they learn to sing better with the repertoire. So where do you find it? Well, the publishers all have websites, and I think a lot of people use J.W. Pepper. I use them to find out what my music is. After 500 or 600 plus pieces, it's hard for me to remember what I had and what was the voicing. But I have to say J.W. Pepper, that's jwpepper.com, is my go-to place. And there's a lot of other vendors that I work with and I respect too. But whatever you're going to do, go to the parameters. So let's say you have a middle school choir. Look for middle school choir music, which is going to be 3-part mixed or SAB, if it's a mixed choir. Or if you're teaching elementary, you want 2-part soprano, alto. And then look at it and listen to it. I mean, when I was growing up in the business, I had to go to the music store and go through all the files to find what was appropriate. Now it's easy. Let's say you want to do music for middle school. Let's just take that for instance. Go to Pepper and go to their distinction and look for SAB and 3-part mixed music. You can also look by composer, which there's a lot of us out there, that we respect each other's, writing, and they do a very good job with it. So, you can now, and then the other thing you can do is, most of them are on video now with the music scrolling. So you don't even have to buy the music before, you don't have to buy the music to hear it. You can hear it on JW Pepper. You can watch the scrolling screen with the music. Of course, these are professionals singing it, but you can tell whether it works for your choir or not. Or high school, SATB, you want a jazz piece, put that in there. It's just, it's so easy. And I'm probably telling people that, are millennials or more that already know all this. But the main thing is have pieces that they can do fairly quickly, folk songs, whatever. And then pieces that you want them to do, in a reasonable amount of time. They have to work a whole year to do a piece of music. It's not worth it. It's not, either you're not teaching it or they're not there yet. So you know where your concerts are, you know where your performances are. I'm a performance driven guy. If I know there's a performance, you start working on things that might work, or you find out will work, or you find out won't work. But I see a lot of middle schools that are trying to do, and high schools that are trying to do college, university, professional stuff, and they don't have the chops yet. They haven't gotten in that scale yet, in that maturity level, and in that musical level. So I certainly hope that you will do music that is doable and music that challenges them, not just easy music, because easy music is a moving target, but you can have something that's easier, folk song, whatever, and then you can have something that takes them a while to do. Might be a festival piece. So I hope this helps you in your repertoire. I also want to tell you about, I've got 3 DVDs that might help you. And I imagine the people at Alfred these are all with Alfred. I imagine Alfred will make this, where you can see it, whatever. But one is creative rehearsal techniques for today's choral classroom, maintaining student interest and maximizing musicianship. This was done, in front of a live audience, as well as takes from that. You can watch the video. This is not something you want your students to watch necessarily. This is for teachers to get ideas about how to, for repertoire, how to maintain interest in student and student engagement, musicianship. They go hand in hand. If they're making music, they're engaged. If they're sitting there waiting, if class doesn't start for 15 minutes after the bell rings, you've already lost them. You want things that will get them in the door, get them excited, do the warm-ups, do this piece, that piece in some sort of sequential way, and have them leave with something that they've been successful with. Another one is my jazz style and improvisation for choirs. This is really fun. They actually can sing along to this. It has a high school choir doing some jazz pieces and some that kind of repertoire, and working with them on improvisation. And then at some point, I point to your class as if it's there, and have them do some call and response on that and do some improvising. The other one is, and I must tell you, I'm probably still in the concrete operations because I love working with middle schools. I love middle schools. I say this, and I don't mean this in anything except it's the truth. High schools, people expect them to sound like college choirs. Well, some of them, they need to sound like good high school choirs. And middle school, that's a challenging time with their voices changing and so on, but they can be so wonderful. This middle school singers turning their energy into wonderful choirs. I always say, it's great. The thing about middle school, the expectations many times is so low that you can just, really impress them by singing the right notes with the right vowels in the right octave. All those things can be done. I say that to be a little bit joking, but also that if you have a good middle school choir, there's nothing like it. So I hope those things might be helpful for you. And I'll go on to the next segment. In closing, I'd like to talk about the joys of teaching choirs. I enjoyed being a band director. I was trained to be a band director. Did a good job. I still work with bands from time to time, especially if they're band choir pieces. But I've even had somebody ask me to do a band district choir, district band. That was many years ago, but I think I could probably still do it. But I've been in choral music since 1978 or 9. Got my master's in 1980 in music education, choral music education at the University of Miami in 1980, and finished my doctorate in music education, choral music education at the University of Miami, and then came to the University of Florida in 1984. I've been doing it ever since, and I retired from the university in 2016 and have been very busy ever since then as well. But I love working with choirs. There's no spit valves to fix. There's no stuck mouthpieces, nothing to carry and haul except the students, no broken reeds. Um, and that's, I'm saying that in jest. I mean, that's just what you have to do in instrumental. But you know, give us 30 or 40 singers in whatever voices that is. If it's middle school, for SAB 3-part, or treble choirs and whatever, and high school SATB or sometimes SSAATTBB. And but again, it's that joy of finding the music that keeps them ignited and keeps them wanting to be in choir. It's determined by their excitement for the music. Again, what they walk out the door and and it's not, oh my gosh, I had choir today. No, we wouldn't believe what we did in choir today. It was great. But it's a very rewarding thing. And and if you're doing band and choir and you love band and choir and you've got room enough in your schedule to do it, great. A lot of schools do that. But whatever you're teaching in music, make sure the students find the joy in what they're doing. And the way they'll do that is by making music that they can make and make it very well, dynamically and balance wise and text accents wise, all those things we've talked about. But I hope this helps you. And if you ever need to talk to me or get a hold of me, I'm russellrobinson.com. And then you have to kind of go through the stages to make sure that it's not spam or something. But then it'll come straight to my email address. That's not on there. It's just russellrobinson.com. And you might find some stuff there too. I've got lots of things about my repertoire and sessions that I do and keynotes that I do and whatever. But this is all about helping you as a band director become a choral director, even if it's part-time. And it's a very rewarding career, or it's a very rewarding experience if it's not the whole career. It goes for church choirs and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, thank you so much. It's been Russell Robinson from the University of Florida, and I've enjoyed doing this webinar for you, this Choral Connect.